So then let's get started. We're 5 minutes after the hour. My apologies for the technical delays on my end. And I do want to just say quickly, the date is November 27th of 2023. I would like to get a disclaimer out for everybody listening. Trading or investing in crypto involves substantial risk of loss. It's not suitable for all investors, and past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. So in other words, if you're going to do anything or listen to anything we're talking about, you need to do your own due diligence and do your own research and have your own plan. You guys, if you're a trader punk, you've heard me talk a lot about having your own plan and knowing what to risk. I met Pigeon, Pidgeon.
Yeah, just Pigeon. Yeah.
Pigeon works. Thank you.
Yeah.
I met Pigeon in the Altieri group, and it was somewhat of a. We both were pulled up on a stage, and it was brought up like in that talk, like, "Hey, this is another fellow trader. He's got lots of good insight." And there was a bit of banter and conversation that went on from there, and that's how we connected. And I know he has done a lot of due diligence in CASPA, and he owns some CASPA. Myself, just so everybody knows, I do not own any CASPA yet. But my purpose is to learn more about this token. I want to get educated on it, and the way to do that is to surround yourself with people smarter than you that have done more, and that's the whole purpose of us having this conversation. I will say I've traded for a long time. I was around when Bitcoin came out. I passed on buying Bitcoin at $5. And thanks, Radical Shadow. I passed on buying Bitcoin at $5, and when I got to $25, I've said this story before. A buddy of mine, he ended up being the best man at my wedding. We were each going to do $1,000 worth of Bitcoin because we could see the potential in this. And at $25, we thought it was too expensive. And fast forward to today, and I'm mining Bitcoin. But I've been around the block, and I've seen lots of technology come out, and I'm getting that same feeling about CASPA. I only thing I can imply it as is an intuitive feeling, which to me means implicit learning has kicked in on this. Somehow, something inside of me is resonating and saying you need to learn more on this. It's the same feeling I got when I started to understand Bitcoin. It's the same feeling I got when I saw the first iPod come out and realized that music could be there. And I'm having that same feeling about CASPA. However, feelings aren't good enough to invest my hard-earned money on. I don't trade or invest because of feeling. I will use that as an edge in making decisions to optimize my decision making. But I don't trade on feeling. And so this is the conversation is CASPA, November 27th. I want to talk to people smarter than me. Pigeon is one of those people from the Netherlands, and would love to hear your thoughts on CASPA, bud.
Awesome, man. Yeah, before I start, what is is there any like limits on the language I can be using here?
We're traders, man. So there's no
Fantastic.
limits. If somebody
That,
has kids, if you're say, I know some of the people, one of our listeners has 4-year-old twins. I would assume that he'll have a headset on or something in. Yeah, just it's all adults. Many times in trading, when I was dealing with trading desk with people, that was language came out quite a bit. So yeah,
yeah,
feel free to talk however you like.
fantastic. Then I don't need to
And
watch
by
my
the way,
words.
so everybody understands these are our opinions and our opinions only. This is to get your creative juices flowing, get you thinking, and perhaps lead you to a path of being able to do something with this. So yeah, how did you get into this? Tell me what your thoughts are, or maybe a bit of
Yeah,
background on yourself. And by the way, we've got a hard 90 minutes, and then I have to
yeah,
stop. I'm meeting my banker buddy for lunch today
yeah.
to have a big discussion on data and also on
Mm.
CASPA. So I've got to stop in 90 minutes.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, so a bit of background on me. I am, as Nanaimo mentioned, I'm from the Netherlands. I've been trading for 3 years now, I think. So I'm pretty recent in this compared to a decent few people. But that's my main vocation is trading. So I'm not on the tech side. I just do my best to understand what things are, right? Um, Now, for a bit of background on how I got into Caspa, I follow a man named Siam Kid on YouTube, and he's kind of a small trading YouTuber, but he started talking about Caspa a few months back, and I started looking into it, and what I found was really quite interesting, right? Because what Caspa is in essence is it's a project trying to do what Bitcoin was originally meant to do. So Bitcoin was originally created as a peer-to-peer cash system, right? It's a way for one person to transfer value to another person. But if you think about it, Bitcoin is really quite shit at doing that, right? And this because Bitcoin doesn't scale. So if you try to send any money to someone on Bitcoin on the network, you'll notice that it can take hours, right? For that money to arrive, and you'll pay a lot in fees, especially when the network's busy. This same problem kind of goes for Ethereum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of brings us into the hmm? This kind of brings
We
you
all
into the
know that.
this brings you to into the trilemma, right? Which is a big issue in the crypto sphere, where uh, projects usually try to solve the trilemma, which is to be decentralized, to be scalable, and to be secure. Now, what ends up happening, there's a reason this is a problem, is usually people end up skimping on one of the three, right? Where uh, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're very they're generally decentralized and secure. Especially Bitcoin is very decentralized. You know, there's no major team behind it, no centralized entity that the project relies on for its success. But it doesn't scale, right? Because fundamentally the way the technology is set up, it just cannot process transactions at high volumes. Now, Caspa's solution to this has been they took the same ethos of being open source and decentralized, like Bitcoin, to still use proof of work, which is basically mining, which is a very secure form of validating your blockchain. But then they decided we're not going to do a blockchain because blockchains are slow. Instead, we're going to use what's called a block DAG, or a directed acyclic graph, which is a very fancy way of saying, whereas a blockchain is essentially Bitcoin has a block and that holds a bunch of transactions, right? It's just a collection of transactions. Once that has been validated, once that's completed, then the next batch of transactions can come through. This kind of slows the whole process down because you have to wait for that block to finish for the next block to come in. With a block DAG instead of a chain, you get what's more of a web of blocks. So with Caspa, I think currently up to 18 blocks can be processed in tandem. So when you're using Bitcoin, okay, well, I gotta wait for the next block, and that could take forever. And essentially, you're waiting at a bus stop, right, for the next bus to show up. With Caspa, you're still waiting at a bus stop, except there's 18 different stops with buses coming constantly. On top of this, because it's just new technology, right? It's a lot more modern than Bitcoin or even Ethereum. The current block speed is around 1 second. So this essentially means that every second up to 18 blocks can be processed. So I think the average transaction time, if you were to now try to send money somewhere with Caspa, it would take 10 seconds, which is very
Just
fast.
to put that in perspective for everybody listening, it takes roughly 10 minutes for Bitcoin, and well, if Ethereum's about 14 seconds, isn't it, or so? If
Yeah.
it's not swamped busy.
Yeah, unless you end up like at a bad time. So because again, Ethereum is a blockchain, it is limited to a single block at a time and it doesn't scale well. when the network gets congested, so I'm sure I think a lot of you have been within Web3 for a while, you'll have probably experienced days that that some big NFT mint was happening, and all of a sudden your gas costs are $100 to send something, and it can take like hours to fill your thing just because gas went up too much, right? It's not really a problem here.
For everybody listening, I'm sure you know what gas is, but it's the cost to transact. I just say to people, it's
Yeah.
like putting a stamp on an envelope and having to mail the envelope. But imagine the stamp pricing changing all the time as more people start using it. They become more expensive, more expensive.
Mhm.
This CASPA, as I understand correctly, Pigeon doesn't have that issue.
Yeah, it does not. So you'll still pay a fee, but it is very minor. Now, I will say that there's projects like Solana that process quite a lot, and they'll be cheap and they'll be fast. But then Solana is honestly very centralized, so it's still technically not owned by a central company controlling everything, but there is a very core team at the center of everything, and if they up and left, it wouldn't be great. Which I mean is kind of the same for any project, but it's a lot less centralized, and that's a big part also in what I wanted to get into now, which is the tokenomics. So in when you're investing in stocks, right, you'd look at the fundamentals of a business, right? You'd see how much money they're making versus how highly the stock is valued in very basic terms. Now in crypto, there isn't any companies to look into to see how well they're doing um, to make your investment decisions, but we can look at tokenomics, which is essentially um, how much is the token released, right? Where is the token going, and who's getting it, right? So a project like Caspa, its tokens had what's called a fair launch. So there is no early investors, there's no VCs, and this is generally beneficial because that spreads your token out to a wide array of people, and there's no singular entities that kind of aggressively move the price. Whereas with a lot of the projects these days, like uh, like Solana or like ADA, or I don't know if ADA, sorry, that's maybe not a great example, but a lot of the layer ones that,
XRP, really good example.
yeah, that I'm not sure if they had a lot of funding, but um, what happens with a lot of these newer projects, right, is they'll get early investors, right? This is how you get a project off the ground if you have no money. You go to someone like Sam Bankman-Fried, or you used to go to Sam Bankman-Fried, and he'd give you a big bag of money. Um, and you'd then develop the protocol with that. And in return, you'd give him a big chunk of tokens at a very cheap price. And they'd later dump those tokens when they got enough money, right? Because they're there to make a quick buck. Which, let's be real here, everyone's in crypto to make a quick buck. The tech is cool and all, but let's be real here. That's not why we're here. Yeah, when there's all these big investors, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because when there's big investors, that means they want their money, so they're highly incentivized to run up the price, right? To influence the market to want to buy this token. But on the other hand, it also means that tokens generally die quicker, because once they've gotten their money, the VCs leave, they dumped all their tokens, and now you're left holding it back. Because Caspa
We're their
fair launched,
liquidity. We're
yeah,
their liquidity. It's like, yeah,
exactly.
they get it all out there and get us all excited about it, and then, yeah, there we are.
Yeah, but Caspa doesn't really have this problem because it's again decentralized. There's no early investors. There's no VCs behind it, right? It's just people built some tech they community fund it, and then they keep working on it, right? As the developers, they keep trying to improve on it, but it's all built by the community. So if you go to like their website at caspa.org, pop it in the we can pop it in the chat, I think. But
Yeah,
there you go.
thanks.
So if you scroll down to the bottom there, there's a little donation place for the dev fund, and it'll show you that everything is the wallet is managed by members of the community that were voted in by the community to manage the multi-sig, the websites. So there's literally I think 2 websites that are used. There's one main one that I've posted there. They're built by the community, right? So it's very there's no central party running everything. And this is very much in the ethos of the original crypto projects, right? Like Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah, very much so.
And I very much like that because it's uh, when there's no entity to dump on you. Just something about not having early investors. It just makes me feel good about a token. I don't know. I don't know why, but I just generally see them doing well. But of course, then there is the risk of not. There's less chance of success, I guess you could say, because it is. It relies completely on like natural and organic growth because there is no massive amount of money behind it to market it to people and to sell it to people. So that's kind of the double-edged sword of not having VCs, right?
Right. But along that line, because one of our members, Juicy, he asked this question. He said, "But the majority of the coins have been distributed. So currently, there's like 21 billion of the 28 billion coins that are already mined.
Yeah.
So, right? And so, like, what's your thoughts on that? If you know, what
So
is that roughly
that's
80%?
yeah, that's actually a really good point. That is again part of the tokenomic stuff, right? Is the max supply is around 29 billion. You can see that on the website as well. The circulating supply, that just means that the majority of the tokens have already been mined, which means they're already distributed, and this is generally a positive thing for price because miners, right? Their business, right? Because these tokens they get distributed not to early investors over a vesting schedule. They get distributed to people who mine, the people who run the project, right? Who keep things running, who keep things online. They get these tokens, but they have costs, right? They got to pay for the housing. They got to pay for electricity mostly. They want to buy new machines, right? These are businesses. These are people who are mining. They have costs. So how do they pay for those costs? They sell the tokens. But the more tokens are mined, the less there is left for them to sell. And some of you may be familiar with the Bitcoin halvings, or I would imagine a lot of you are, where essentially every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that is mined per block, basically the amount of Bitcoin you get for validating transactions, gets cut in half. Now on Caspa, right, this is part of the tokenomics again, this happens every year. So basically every month it reduces a little bit, and around the year mark, I think actually exactly on the year mark, roughly. I'm not entirely sure, but it's basically cut in half from a year previous. So there is a constant reduction in the amount of Caspa being mined, which just is reducing the sell pressure, and this gives that positive buoyancy effect. So this is why the people are so excited about the halving in Bitcoin. And if you look at the chart for Bitcoin, sadly I can't. It doesn't seem I can share screen in this channel. Okay, maybe I can.
Oh,
No, I
you
cannot.
should be. If not, I can pull up a Bitcoin chart really quick
Yeah,
if you want me
yeah.
to.
I just had a few things I wanted to go over, but
You should be. Let me see. But while you're talking on it,
yeah.
you should be allowed to share.
I have no roles, so I can't stream in this channel, but doesn't let me.
Me.
Yeah. what I was saying is
Do you?
after the Bitcoin halving, right? Once that occurs, you'll see a general uptick in the price on everything in the market, mostly Bitcoin, but things will follow it. And usually after the halving, it's generally like an up only market basically in Bitcoin. This has historically been the case. And the idea for this is that it's a matter of supply and demand, right? There's X number of Bitcoin tokens, and there's X number of people who want to buy those Bitcoin tokens. If all of a sudden the amount of tokens becoming available to the market gets cut in half, then but the demand remains the same, right? The same amount of people want to buy the Bitcoin tokens, then that naturally increases price. The same concept applies here with Caspa, right? Assuming the amount of people who want to buy the Caspa token stays the same or increases, but the amount of Caspa being distributed or entering the market is constantly being reduced, that keeps having a positive buoyancy effect on price until, of course, that reaches a balance point. But um, and that's generally just what the market is. But um, yeah,
And then with Caspa, they're basically it's a much quicker acceleration. Like we're
yeah,
basically going to see that the rest of the Caspa, um, be available in the next 20 years or something like that, and then it'll be done. Um, but there was a couple of things, and I'm following up with Juicy's questions on here that he asked in
mm-hmm.
our group. If you're Trader Punk, you've got access to a Caspa channel that's very
Mm-hmm.
specific on this that I opened up earlier this or a few days ago.
Oh, fantastic.
But he brings up a question about the very expensive mining hardware, and he goes, "Well, generally, I consider it's a good thing. It's concerning when coupled with 2B." He says it's reminiscent of helium, but only at a larger scale. And then his guess, although not confirmed, is a large chunk of the mining rewards being hoarded for the next bull run. We won't actually see proper valuation until after they've been dumped on the market. So kind of two things in there. I just curious what your thoughts are on that because you're also mining. Is that right?
Yeah, I have some light exposure to the mining stuff through Alteri and Enigma.
Altiri? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I don't, although I'm seriously looking at it. Like I said, I don't have any Casper or
yeah.
exposure to it. That's all
So
about figuring this out.
yeah, so the way I see this, right, is I'm a trader first and foremost. So I very much
Got
like
it.
the tech, and this is so when I do invest in something, I want to understand what it is, and I want to understand why it would have value. But the that kind of brings me to the main point. The main thing that's gonna uh, drive the success, right, is this tech can be really cool and be amazing and can be the best thing that ever happened in crypto. But if people don't want it, or if people don't know about it and they don't want it, then there's no adoption and there is no increase in price, right? I'm here because I want to make money. So,
Me too.
um, the biggest risk with any crypto project is the adoption. And the way I look at KAS is it has not gone through a cycle, and most coins do best in their first cycle. Some coins will reach another cycle, but generally, when you've had the big blow off top, a lot of coins don't get back to their first bull market all time highs. Um, yeah, likening it to the helium situation. I mean, I think for a while actually, Caspa was purely mined using GPUs for the longest time. And only recently did they actually come out with the ASICs, so the big boy mining equipment, which now has a very so the majority of the Caspa supply was already pretty spread out before the big boys came onto the scene. Um, and as far as I know, I know now that it's very you can't mine with GPUs anymore, right? Like when the big boys are here, when the ASICs are here, you have to have ASICs to compete, which ASICs are
Yeah.
just specialized computers specifically for mining.
And I think if I remember right, I think the least expensive you can buy right now at basically wholesale price with connections is around 14,000 US dollars.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're
So I think I was like, if you go online and look for it, you're looking at like 16, 17,000.
Yeah.
which keeps a lot of the hobbyists out, right? So I think with helium mining, I think the idea was you're setting up like this decentralized network, and you got token rewards, but it was very Ponzi-nomic. You got I remember a friend of mine had a whole network of them, one single miner that cost him like less than $1,000, I think, for the miner. It brought him like 20K in a day because of some thing event they had that you could sometimes get. It was silly shit. But even then, right? If we were to look at the helium chart, right, which is it's mostly been delisted on most exchanges, which is kind of makes it tough, but um, sadly still can't stream. But yeah,
Sorry. You know what? I
it
can pull up a helium chart.
yeah it reached a peak around almost $60, right? Which if we go to coin market cap, we can actually look at what its peak was without having to grab a trading view chart. So yeah, it reached like 50 something bucks, which put its market cap at like 5 billion, right? So this was uh
There you go. Yeah.
the problem just with helium as well is that like you don't why would you need the helium token, right? This is the same problem that gaming tokens had, or early gaming tokens, where you just got the coin for playing the game, but you didn't need the coin for anything. So if people are just getting your coin, like they're just selling it, right? No one's investing in helium because the technology is useful, right? People were just buying the miners and they were getting helium as a reward for setting up the little miner thing, right? For working on their network. I think this is fundamentally different, and this is much more like, I mean, any major proof of work coin runs off ASICs, right? That's just how it is for any of these projects. Um, I know KDA Kadena was one that Alteri had that didn't do particularly well. But I mean, most alts did not survive much in the bear market.
So yeah. So coming back to Caspa, then,
Yeah,
what do you think the incentive is for people to keep mining it if we've got roughly 80% of it mined, right? Very expensive hardware, electricity. I mean, currently, you're at these prices, you're roughly getting 20% a month of
yeah,
mining
which is not going to
reserves.
last. But yeah,
Right, which is, yeah, not going to last. So, and that's part of the thing that people always talk about with Bitcoin is, listen, Bitcoin, um, you know, eventually, unless, eventually there is a dilemma that comes up, which is, people need to be incentivized to mine Bitcoin. The only way it currently really happens, the bulk of that is because of the price going up.
yeah.
But do you see, what about Caspa? Like, what do you see as future incentives?
Well, I noticed generally that actually hash rate goes up, so the mining difficulty. So if more people start mining, generally price actually goes up, which is kind of a funny way, a funny thing. But so this was actually how I got into the Caspa pretty early at the before this whole breakout back at like 3.5 cents. I saw a massive spike in mining hash rate, and then you got the whole big run following that to catch up. But
Nice.
yeah, this is kind of like the biggest reason that I have any interest in Caspa at all. Like I would not give a shit about the tech if the it's all just extra if the chart didn't look good, right? So I mentioned Kadena, right, which was a
Yeah,
coin that Alteri
I'm
tried to
sharing a
mine.
Caspa daily chart right now, just so everybody
Fantastic.
can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know Alteri was trying to mine Kadena, which failed miserably. I think they're not worth anything anymore, they said. Um, and this is simply, if you just look at a Kadena chart, it's straight down, right? It has just been bleeding all throughout the market. And there's a famous saying, I guess, within the trading world: winners average winners, right? Or losers average losers. And that basically means you add to your winning trades and you cut your losing trades. So Kadena is if you buy into a coin that keeps going down and it keeps going down, who could have expected that? Um, but what I've noticed with Caspa is it does not give a shit what the rest of the market's doing. I mean, it's been trading pretty similar the last few days after its recent massive pump, right?
Yeah,
With that little
that
double
run.
top, we're seeing a similar. We saw a similar double top. We're currently on like Solana and stuff, but if you zoom out on this chart, on like a logarithmic
I'll go
chart,
to a weekly chart. There's
yeah,
a weekly.
can you set that to
Uh,
logarithmic? Just right click on the numbers on the right, and you can set it to logarithmic in the middle there.
Thank you.
There you go. So Aspa has done what most coins cannot, and that's been taking a massive bull trend or bull market essentially, or having mini bull and bear cycles within, regardless of what the rest of the market's doing. So most coins just trade with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes up, that gives them permission to go up, if you will. But Caspa's really not given much of a shit about what the rest of the market did. And when you see a coin in a perpetual uptrend like this, right? And it's not like a blow off top, right? It's not like it's going straight up in a line and it's gonna nuke right back down. I mean, this recent move, sure, it'll probably come back down. But when you look at the big picture, right? It's the weekly chart here on Caspa is basically a monthly chart on Bitcoin, right? It's just doing things Bitcoin did, but on a shorter time scale.
Good point.
And honestly, with any project in crypto, right? I mean, in the bull market, honestly, anything can do well. It's just what's gonna outperform, right? And the big thing for anything in crypto is just adoption. That's the biggest problem. A lot of the current layer ones, current popular layer ones like Ethereum, BNB, Solana, AVAX, they have smart contracts, which is basically a way for you to do things on their chain, right? If you have done anything with NFTs or with any dApps, right, you're working with smart contracts. Caspa does not currently have that, and that's been the biggest kind of criticism it's received. But they are currently in the process of moving to Rust, which is a different coding language, which will allow for smart contracts. So that could become a solution for their problem, which can then further incentivize adoption, right? Because if you have a chain that's used, it's going to likely see a price increase. And this is, I think, kind of also why the hash rate increases price.
So let me ask you a question because this came up in my mind when I was doing research on it. Why wouldn't people just use Litecoin? I mean, Litecoin's cheap, right? I think the block time is 2.5 minutes. I mean, you'd eventually hit a spot where does it really matter? Like if it's just a little bit faster? I mean, maybe it does if you're doing a bunch of tiny, tiny transactions. But, Litecoin's been around for eons. It's decentralized. It's out there. People are familiar with it. It's used a ton in Asia.
Mhm.
What would be your thoughts on that versus Caspa?
I mean, Litecoin is it's also just outdated technology, right? They tried to make Bitcoin better, right? They still stick to the same ethos, right? But it's really not much better than Bitcoin, right? Um, it does not scale, right? In the same way, like if any government say were to want to use it, they're not going to because it doesn't scale. Um, for a scaling solution, I think project called Ton. I haven't actually looked into it much. I will see. Apparently, it's like the fastest payment processor in the world right now, something like that. Or I think it reached 100,000 max transactions per second. Like that's scalable. That's usable, right? Um, you can't use uh, Litecoin as cash because it's going to have the same problems as Bitcoin. And for me also personally, I mean the tech is just better, but it's more for me just Litecoin is an old coin, right? It is chart wise it underperforms, right? It it barely reached back to its previous all time high from 2017 in the previous cycle, uh, and it's generally just it's not very sexy, right? People want the new things, and I go where the money goes. And the money goes mostly into new projects and very few older projects. So my the amount of money I'm gonna make investing into something like Caspa is, if it succeeds, right? Uh, Assuming it continues, is gonna be much more than I'd ever make buying something like Litecoin. All right, so you got the
So,
website pulled
so
up.
I definitely get that from a trader perspective, where you look at it and you go, "Hey, this thing has the potential to, like, give me an example. Is this a 5x? What's your thought over the next? Give me your time frame and your rough thought on where something like this might
So
go.
my time frame for every coin.
Considering you did buy at 3 cents, so you're kind of already you're already
So
there
I mean
sitting
I've
on a 5x.
like I'm not full like I'm not sitting on a 5x, right? I bought a bit at the breakout. I'm a trader, right? In
Nice.
the end, my targets basically I was looking based on fractals, right? Every time we would have a double bottom around the previous. Uh, I wish I could show this shit.
I know, man. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's fine.
I thought totally you should have screen sharing options,
Yeah,
and I'm not
basically
sure.
there's some.
And the
Uh,
reason, just so you understand, is we've got our Discord so locked down, token gated, that that's a big part of it. Even with dropping NFTs to people that are listening and stuff, it all has to be done a certain way.
Damn. I'm starting to not like crypto so. No, but basically, I was looking for a level around 2.8 as my like main buy zone when I was first looking at it, and then it
Yeah.
ended up double bottoming around the 3.3 area. So then when I saw that breakout, we played it in my community. We traded it up, and we actually we made fuckloads of money trading that because it was for some reason really easy. I think there's not really any weird algos on it. Traded like some coin from 2022 in the bear market when everything was just down only. Um,
Nice.
like sometimes you find these charts that are so simple and it's beautiful. Um, but yeah, I traded up and down, right, and I scaled in.
Hey, Pigeon,
Yeah,
Radical Shadow, he's our
yeah, I see
programmer.
that. I
He's
cannot.
y- you
It
can you
still
can't
won't let me.
share now.
No.
Okay.
Um,
Something to do must be something to do with our stage settings. Um,
quite unfortunate. But yeah.
yeah.
Basically, I scaled in some, and then I bought a bunch more on 5.2 right like the few days before the breakout happened because I could feel it coming. I had the tingles in the nuts.
Yep.
Um, and then it absolutely sent from there. I mean, my targets basically I've been adding all the way up, right? So I'm not sitting on a 5x because I didn't have conviction to put lots of money in there and then just hold it, right? That's not what I was doing. I was just trading this up and down and then slowly building up a position, right? So the position I have in Caspa now has just been paid for in trading profits, right? And then I have miners
Nice.
that are paid for in trading profits. Um,
That's fantastic. That's awesome.
yeah.
Like, I mean, that I think that's what many people would endeavor to be able to do.
Mhm.
Um, I'm just sharing a screen right now, so I've got the from the Caspa website, and then I've got the chart up there.
Oh, yeah,
So
perfect.
yeah, so just because I think we should also touch on those points that are in there. Um, so let me ask you this then. What's your time frame? I mean, you are
Yeah,
trading this, but what's your time frame?
yeah.
Are you measuring it in weeks, months,
So
years?
this is what I wanted to say a second ago as well. My time frame for every coin is the exact same, and that is from now about 2 years. So I'm a very big proponent of the of the Bitcoin cycles, and that is more so not because of necessarily that magical Bitcoin cycle. It's more that Bitcoin cycles line up um, with the liquidity cycle. So basically, the way money flows through the economy and through the markets specifically, um, that is actually lined up all near perfectly with Bitcoin cycles. So every 4 years, um, we'll get these ups and downs.
So
So
you're trading that. So you're tying. You're just basically aligning with the flow of that wave.
yeah, because I've done a lot of like research into and basically back testing into when does what happen. Um, well, first thing to note is that most altcoins do not move until after the Bitcoin halving, right? We'll see pumps like on Caspa now and Solana, and we had some stuff in the gaming sector a few days ago. We've had some nice moves across the market, but for those who've been through a bull cycle, you'll know this is nothing, right? This is just an average Wednesday in the bull market. Um,
Yep.
I think uh, sure we can talk about how shit the economy is and how fucked the U.S. economy is specifically. But if there's anything the Fed is good at, it's kicking the can down the road. And when you just look at liquidity cycles, this shit has been true for hundreds of years, and by hundreds I mean like 100 years. Um,
That's like
I
what?
don't,
That's 10 years in crypto, right?
yeah, something like that. I don't see why supposed fears of a a recession is coming now. Like I don't see why that would suddenly change these things. So my general time frame is 2 years, right? Which is uh and like basically Q4 2025 is when you'd expect the end of the Bitcoin cycle. So when you'd expect it to go into a uh, a macro bear market.
And then in that situation,
Mhm.
you're timing to, capture, a chunk of that move, um, in whatever tokens you're in. You've got that kind of 2-year time frame from right now in mind, more or
Yeah,
less. Is that right? Okay.
yeah. So as I put it, I most tokens don't move until after the Bitcoin halving, which for those who don't know is going to happen around early April 2024, um, or it should happen around there.
Yep. Right around there.
Um, I'm now moving into let's start moving out of Bitcoin and Cash into Bitcoin Cash and altcoins, right? And Caspa is one of those altcoins. So I've been mostly Bitcoin since I was 100% cash throughout 90% of the bear market. And then coming into, I think back in early June when we first hit 23K, that was my first buy into Bitcoin. I've just been adding into it, and that's treated me very well. And now I'm getting the feeling, okay, it's time to start adding into alts that I like, and Caspa is one of those. Um, and it's far from my only bet, but I think my success in this is market is just going to come from having a few buckets, right? I'll have my
Yep.
trading, which is great, but I've as a, I know as a trader that if I don't put coins on cold storage and just put them out of my reach, I will pay too much attention to them and it will cost me money.
You and me both. Yes. Yeah, it's way too easy for me to get caught up in the short term part of trading.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and then do you have a price prediction concept? Like, are you have something you're looking at for Caspa that you think based on your tokenomics and understanding that where this might go?
I mean, it's all just price discovery. The best we can do is kind of go to something like CoinMarketCap. I'm expecting like 200 billion plus for altcoins, for like top altcoins next cycle.
Okay.
Um, so if we look at CAS right now, and we say right now it's about 3 billion.
Yep.
And that's 2 billion. That's 200 billion not fully diluted, because that's just kind of how Coin Market Cap shows them. But fully diluted would probably be better. So KAS is 3.6 billion fully diluted market cap at 12 cents. Where would it be at 200 billion? I don't know. Much higher.
Sorry. Yeah, much higher. Are you saying you think Caspa might hit
In
200 billion market cap?
on the best case, yeah. On like a good case, which would be like a 50x from here. So, what that's basically like a $6 Caspa, right? That's fully diluted, right? That is the
Right.
my absolute kind of best case. I
Right. That's your
cannot see it
bullish
go higher.
scenario.
More reasonable, a couple of bucks, like $2 Caspa. I would not be surprised, and I've seen that sentiment shared with some other people. Um, if I could kind of show you my chart, I could kind of show the little mini cycles that KAS goes through, but um, essentially it keeps going through these.
I mean, you can see the waves here, right? If you're depending on what you're doing, we come
Yeah,
up, we pull back, right? We
yeah,
close
and
again,
those cycles keep
place
extending a little
away.
bit. So I think
Yeah.
if you look
Right.
up Siam Kid, the guy I mentioned at the start, he
Yeah.
has a great video on it where he shows off how the cycles keep extending a bit. So first it was like 2 months, then 4 months, then 8 months or something.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. That makes
but
sense with the mining too.
yeah, but generally this is just assuming these cycles keep playing out, right? We can just do this based off fib targets, right? If Caspa were to pull back now to say 4 cents, right? Basically previous highs, or more realistically like 5 6 cents. That
Yep.
kind of changed the targets, but that would kind of
Yep.
put your next target, assuming this is the top, that would put your next target around 50 cents, right, for the next run. Now, in the next 2 years, if we keep having runs like this, the chart keeps behaving like this, it would not be weird at all to see it at $2. The My only problem is just it's very hard to have specific price targets for new coins, right? Because
It
there's not a lot of
agreed.
price history. On
Agreed.
Bitcoin, it's pretty easy to say. Like for Bitcoin, I'm very simply looking for like 100,000, 170,000, max 300,000, right? And that is
You're
literally
saying
just
by the end of 2025, just to put it on
yeah,
context for everybody looking. That's
yeah.
kind of your thoughts. Yeah. Okay.
And that's purely just fib targets, right? That is taking a
Right.
fib retracement from the all-time high to the bear market low. And then from a trader perspective, I know that if I get above the one fib, price naturally trades towards the 1272 and the 1618. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to a 2 or 272.
And for everybody listening, this is what happens when you're dealing with new territory. It doesn't matter. I've traded lots of markets, non-crypto markets that have broken into all new territory. There was a while there where the S&P was just constantly, making new all-time highs. And I was head trader at a Chicago firm at that point, and we had a lot of people following us. And I'll just show you quickly on the chart. So you can see here, right, dating back to a year ago in December, right? Caspa makes new highs, right? Pulls back, breaks. Now it runs its initiative. It's trying to find value. Runs up, it gets high enough, people start selling it for whatever reason. A lot of times it's common numbers like 4 cents get tagged, and everybody sells at 4 cents because that's an easy number psychologically to put into a computer. And then, does the pullback. Now it goes again, breaks high again. Now it's sitting there trying to figure out what to do. I love when I see a market hit new highs and then go sideways like this, because it identifies to me the auction has a fair value at those new highs where buyers and sellers are trying to figure out what fair price is. And then you can see buyers overwhelm sellers here back in end of October or so, and then it starts moving again. And here we are, current prices, we're up here at that 12.5 cent mark. And now market, if you go to a daily chart, um, you're going to see a market sitting here again, same thing, right? We're going sideways in balance, trying to sort out what's fair price. Down here at the 11.5 cent mark, it's too cheap. Up here over 15 cents is too expensive. And the market's kind of saying, okay, somewhere in that range right now. Lots of times you'll see markets go like that sideways and then they break again. And when they do, you get a third force that comes in, which is people on the sidelines or people that have been stopped out, or, you know, they're basically having to buy now if they were short or whatever. So that when you get into the new highs, the big thing to be aware of in any market is that you really don't know how far it can run. And one thing I've learned in crypto, it can really fucking pump, like hardcore pump. So you've got to be aware and ready for that, and have a plan for those pumps and how you're going to manage that.
Yeah. I will say, however, just from Casper's perspective, it's been a very like fractal chart. Usually, I don't trade fractals, but um, I mean, what you'll notice all the bottoms before the move up are like pretty clear double bottoms around like a previous chop near the all-time high, right?
Right.
All
Yep.
the tops are all basically like, okay, well, we made a high 14 days after the breakout from that chop. Um, so you get the chop around the all-time high. 2 weeks later, you're at the top, and then it trades down. Um, Currently, we've hit that mark, right? We had the breakout from the big choppy region before that move up. It took exactly 15 days from that breakout to the current high, where it basically 3x'd. Um, and now we're getting the little double top, and now you're coming down.
Yep.
Let me pull you up that link.
Thanks. And then just to, I mean, I love that. I love to talk trading and setups and everything else. Um, but I'm looking at this now from a very long-term time frame. Like for me, which is 4 to 6 years, um,
Mhm.
because of the things at the top here with the fast transactions, instant confirmation, scalability, efficient proof of work, security, block DAG. Because technically, this is actually not a blockchain. It's a CASPA, right? It's more of a block DAG
Mhm.
approach.
Yeah.
And so with all of that in mind, um, do you think it solves the blockchain trilemma?
Um, I mean, I think it does, but the question is just, will people use it, right? And I
Right.
think I started this whole conversation, right, talking about the tech, and I really do like the tech. I mean,
Yeah,
as
me
little
too.
as I understand it, I mean, I've tried to understand it, and I tried to get my friend is really big on AI, so he's set up a whole bunch of AI agents for specific tasks. I kept breaking them by trying to feed them the papers to get him to explain them to me. Um, Man, they have this great tech, and then they're constantly improving on it. So I think from that perspective, there's no I haven't really seen any problems there. It's just whether people will use it. Um, so yeah, I do think I'll like it longer term, but in the end, the chart will tell me, right? That is
Right.
how I always felt about these things, because the chart is every decision everyone's making at any given time, right? It's
Yeah,
I like to
that
get that. Hmm?
I subscribe to the same theory that the auction shows us all available players, but what it doesn't show us is the people on the sidelines and what they're thinking of doing,
Yeah.
which is where you see that third force, the
Mhm.
sidelines enter at times, and can really can
Mhm.
really influence a token, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The main reason I'm not looking at, like, you mentioned 4 to 6 years. The reason my time horizon is 2 years from now is because uh that is just when the liquidity cycle resets, and when you're expect to go back into a bear trend, right? Especially in crypto, right? It's very
Right.
very it shows very easily there, right? And I don't know if that stuff's going to change with if it's going to become less extreme, right? But what we'll notice is anytime a bear trend starts in crypto, um, even major alts, right, go down 95%. Like the best performing alts from this previous cycle to their bear market lows, right? Some of the best performing alts, like are Matic and things. Matic went down still 89% in half a year.
Right.
And then it
Yeah.
started performing a bit better. Solana was another one that did pretty well. That was at $260 at the peak of the bull market and went down as low uh as $8, right? That's minus 97%.
Yeah,
So
that's. I mean, we're seeing it in Theta. We've all seen it in Theta. It's dropped 96%.
yeah, so I the way I see this, right, is even if I like the tech and even if I think it has great potential long term, it does not make any sense to hold through that, right? If I can, if I buy a token, right, Bitcoin maybe because I don't see Bitcoin going anywhere, right? But even then, I'm taking profit on my Bitcoin. I'm not going to sell all of it, right? Um, and there's people like I think Michael Saylor who take the approach of okay, we're just going to keep buying this, and we'll probably still be buying at $1 million, um, and they're going to make fuckloads of money, right? But I am I'm trying to compound my money. Let me put it that way.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm very much the same, man. I agree with you. But I am always trying to look for that rare beast of crypto that might be the big game changer.
Mhm.
And when I look into Caspa and I look at all this information, I'm like, this could be big, especially like if we can scale. Like I saw some information like that they're going to be able to go to. Is it 30 transactions? No,
Yeah, so
30.
currently they can do 18 blocks a second, which I think a single block they said could hold up to
Oh,
400
you still there?
transactions.
We lost you. Say that. We just
Oh,
lost
you can.
part of what
Oh,
you
okay.
said. Say that again.
Uh, so currently they can do 18 blocks a second, so simultaneously. Um, so one block a second, but technically 18 because they all go at the same time, right? And each one of those blocks holds up to like 400 transactions, according to their information. Um, and with the changes by moving to the Rust code base, right? Being using the Rust programming language, I should say. Um, they are going to be able to go to I think it was 32 a second.
Yeah,
So that kind of almost doubles their output.
32 blocks a
Yes,
second.
which is
Just
like
for everybody
400
listening.
transactions per block max. Now, granted, if you look on the Caspa block explorer, um, it's not nearly that much. Also, I've popped a little link in the chat there, kgi.caspad.net. That's a fun little website. It visualizes the block DAG. So if you're not sure what I meant by a block DAG, what that looks like,
It's showing now.
yeah,
It's showing now on the
it
screen.
shows how instead of just having a single chain, how these blocks can uh, operate simultaneously, right? Now Caspa doesn't have the volume that it needs all this speed, right? So you're seeing a lot of these still passing as like a single block for the second. But you'll see those occasional second ones pop up, and you can see the connections, uh, how they're validating each other.
Yeah, that's very cool. And with that speed, they're not sacrificing security, and nor are they sacrificing being
Exactly.
decentralized, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, see, that's the thing, man. I'm just like, I could see this becoming something that could really take off if people start using it, especially once they start releasing smart contracts being built on something like this.
Yeah.
Um, right? Like yes, there's other chains that can do similar things. Like, hey, we can do smart contracts on Theta very cheap, but Theta is still very centralized, right?
Mhm.
Whereas, if something like this isn't and has the proof of work backing it, I get where, yeah, maybe this becomes a big deal.
Yeah. Um, I do agree, but in the end, it's maybes, right? That's
Right,
the best
right,
we can
yeah,
do with anything. Even Bitcoin, as much as I believe in it, it's still a maybe, right? And this goes, we cannot predict the future of anything, um, other than if we go crazy math and we can start predicting the probabilities of things. But um, generally, I think Bitcoin is a safe bet, and I think it'll be around, and I think Caspa, at least for this cycle, is a safe bet, um, to make money. Whether it's gonna take off and be massively popular and it's gonna change the whole crypto industry, only time will tell, right? Adoption is the problem any project will face, and how the community will evolve and whether it will grow, like only time will tell, right? You won't
yeah.
know until it happens.
Yeah, and we're always watching in Trader Punks. We're always watching for adoption metrics. One of our members of More Style is really big on that, and like, is this getting adoption? Are people using it? What's some of the holdups? Link, by the way, is one that's seems to really be getting the adoption.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So I really love the approach, and I made a comment to everybody listening is like, you hear Pigeon how he's talking, and he just answers my questions, just boom, boom, boom when it comes to trading, because he's got a plan, right? He's already traded it well enough that his cost is basically a zero basis. But one of my first things I always try to do, Pigeon, is I always try to figure out where am I wrong on this. And
Mhm.
I'd like to ask you that question. Like, what would you need to see price action wise for you to say, hey, I'm wrong in my scenario with Caspa?
That's a good question. So I mean, for any trade, I'll have an invalidation, right? That's obviously very important. So actually, within my own community, I've been slowly building up a little position throughout this little move here, in the hopes of seeing another leg, which I don't think is the most likely scenario, but it's a minimal risk thing. Um, and the way I see it, right, is long term. If this drops back below, like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, right? Because where does it not come back? I mean, if we're back down below 3 cents, I do not see that as like likely to come back. But then again, it depends on the market. Like if everything took a shit, right?
Right,
If it's not specifically Caspa, and I still believe crypto is going to come back, which I don't see why it wouldn't. Um,
right,
then that wouldn't be so much a problem. If this thing just nukes all the way back below 1 cent, I'm probably not going to be very interested in it anymore, though. Yeah, that's kind of it loses 90 something percent of its value from here, which is kind of an ridiculous invalidation, right? That's like, I do not see this coming back type price action. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, for me, I love this channel right here that was built. I mean, I got tipped off on this back when it was here in the 4.5, 5 cent mark, like when it was ranging. Um, and I was just too busy. I mean, we were launching our Bitcoin miners. ThetaCon was coming up. I was getting ready for that. And then while I was away, everything started breaking and running higher. And I didn't have, I wasn't
in a
in a
position.
real position where I could
Yeah,
trade or invest in anything because I was traveling in the States, and I'm not going to bring anything with me to have access to crypto other than my emergency fund for crypto. But any retracement back into this zone here, I drew with the blue lines. That would really have my interest.
yeah,
Um, but if we keep repeating this history of coming up, breaking new highs, balancing out sideways, and then the auction, something triggers it, and the auction takes off again, then most likely we're going to see a 10-cent level get tested. Probably buyers would defend that level, and then we go down sideways, and then
yeah.
we go sideways for a while, and then we push up again to
Yeah.
new all-time
I've
highs.
popped my little
Oh,
doodles
there
from
you
my
go.
chart in the chat there. Um,
Love that.
so yeah, the way I see it, I don't expect us. So there's a very clear difference between my absolute invalidation for this to reach new all-time highs versus my the way I'll be positioning in this, right? Because um, I'm buying bits now, but like I mentioned, my entire cast position has been paid for, right? It's effectively zero. Um,
Fantastic.
but it's not nearly as much as I'd like to have come bull market, right? So where do I look to add? I look to add as it comes down. So where would that be? Around 5 cents around the golden pocket as I post on my little chart there, which currently would come in around 6.5, 6.6,
Hmm.
and that's just generally a decent place to buy. Now, where's the invalidation for a buy like that? Yeah, exactly. Buy the dip. Um, where's the place to that I would invalidate that? Well, I might just cut my losses below 4 cents, right? Um,
Right.
and then I'll see where does it go from here. Um, on whether I want to get back in, right?
Yeah, like if it breaks this previous channel from September and October, like if it breaks and you say you get a daily or especially a weekly close below that level, that's pretty clear invalidation of the auction, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like I would be getting concerned that I've missed something, or maybe we're just in a real bear trend, right?
yeah,
Somewhere in that zone. Yeah, I'd be like, okay, on a longer term time frame, that's pretty clear and clearly being invalidated.
yeah, yeah. So that
So
basically puts my trade setup, if you will, would simply be okay. I'll buy like around 6.5 cents. Let's just put it that way. And my stop is below 4 cents. Um, and then my targets are 50 cents. So that's roughly a 16 R. You know, that's the kind of
yeah, love
plays we
that.
take on spot. Not bad, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
love that.
I mean, minus 40% is not quite the same, so it's not really 16 R, but um, or is it? Actually, yeah, maybe it is. I don't know how the
Yeah,
calculation. Yeah,
pretty
but
close.
yeah, should be fine.
Depends where you're at it. I want to say something too is that I love that you've got your entire cast position paid for, including your mining side of it paid for, all by trading. Um, that was a real thing that helped me immensely with my theta, because I started buying theta when it was in the right at the beginning of the run, and I was buying into it as a I didn't listen to my banker buddy for 2 3 weeks till it was really starting to move, and he was like, you need to get in on this now. So he was telling me about it when it was around $1. I don't think I really started buying till it was around 4. And my last purchase was $14 and change, and I was just almost average at $10 cost when I had about 6 months net income invested into it. So it's half my half a life of or half a year of income. And the only and I have a trading rule, which is a trading plan, which is I try to trade half my bag to reduce my overall cost to zero. So similar to you, so then I can get into something and I have it. And that was really the defensive thing that kept me out of taking a hard hit on Theta token,
Yeah,
because it's great when when it's rallying up there, but I'm literally buying in on the pump, and then it just starts dropping. And eventually, I think just trading it, my dollar cost got down to about $1.25 or $1.50, almost exactly $1.50. And then I sold my last big chunk for a loss at a buck 25. And just that ability to be able to manage the risk and trade really kept me from getting hit hard. And
yeah,
now I can buy basically as much as I want for 2 weeks of net income, right? So
yeah.
the same amount, sorry. So I really love what you're doing with Caspa from a trader perspective. My challenge is as a short-term trader, because I was specialized as a day trader, and still day trade. But my thing is always difficult is to hang on to those
Yeah.
pumps. So, do you have a plan for that? Like, if this really starts to pump and move, can you share how you might manage that, or what you do?
So, like I said, I put my coins on cold storage. So, I mean, for Caspa, I think right now they're working with Ledger to get it integrated there. But right now, that just means the the money that I have. So this is why I got the miners, right? Because they'll give me
Right,
CAS regardless.
right,
Um, and this is why I moved some of the cash that I got from my profits, I just moved it to a wallet, right? Because this is something I've especially noticed with myself. If I make something even slightly harder for myself, the chances that I'll do it drop dramatically. Like I've been
Yeah.
playing classical guitar for 6 years, right? I used to not practice because my guitar was in the bag.
Mm.
So that step of taking my guitar out of my bag reduced my chances of playing guitar on that day. So then I mounted it to my wall, and now the amount of classical guitar that I played just went up dramatically. I practiced way more because it was just always there, right? It was on my wall in my face, um, and all I had to do was reach out and grab it, and I could play, right? Um, by doing the opposite, by having to go through the trouble of, okay, I got to go to my wallet, I got to open it, I got to then go to this to an exchange, and I got to deposit my coins and got to sell. Like, I'll have plenty of time in between there to realize, okay, does this fit with my long term plan? Does it actually
Right.
make sense? Right? There's no impulse decision. This is also why I don't trade minute charts, right? I like day trading, but I don't like scalp, right? Or I should say I like scalping. I just don't do very well scalping.
Right. You don't have the edge. Yeah.
So I might have an edge, but it's just because things move so quick. Um,
Hmm.
I'm much more quick to make impulse decisions and to not stick to a plan, right?
Right. Right.
I'm much more prone to mistakes if I scalp, right? It's that simple. It's why I don't scalp. And I think the same thing is just with Caspa is I'll have my targets, and I'll always take profit on the way because that's just my trader brain. But um, I'll just say, okay, where does it make sense? And that's where I get out. So with KAS from this breakout, right, the natural target was the 1618, and I showed this on my chart, right? That was my main target. Um, I had some short TPs, so when I was like really scalping it on the low time frames, around the 6.5 cent mark, right? We had a little pullback. I TP'd some, but I added that back and more as it bottomed out there and started going again. So
Yeah,
um,
I like that. That makes. I just threw up your image there,
yeah,
for anybody looking or for the video if people are watching later. Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely like that. Um, yeah, I'm the more I study and the more I get into it, I definitely see that this has that potential to move. I really like your, kind of your thought, something maybe we get something along those lines that pull back. I personally am going to really, really watching that 10 cent level. And if it fails, then yeah, I'm with you on that golden zone, as you call it.
mhm,
Might get a little tag here at that 5.5 cent mark. And then, like you're talking about, maybe that push up.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, that's an interesting thing. Where are you buying it at? Where are you buying Caspa?
anywhere. So this is a strategy I employ basically in any of my trading, especially it's kind of, I guess, a bull market type strategy. I did it in kind of in the bear as well, but um, when price is heading in a direction, right? Um, what I'll tend to do is I'll try to find just general good entries. They might be worse as like a bit of a trade, but I'll usually look for what I would usually take as a trade, essentially, on a very low time frame. Say I'm on the 15 minute, I find an entry, I like it. I'll take that trade, and then I'll leave a part of that position open as a swing trade for these higher levels. So um, if I'm on Caspa here, right, that's how I played this. I take when we were at the 7-6 the 6-7 area, right? It had a little pullback. You'd have to really zoom in to find it. But I basically took a trade. I took my profit, and then I held a part of that position up, and that little part of that position just keeps running, right? And the same goes for all these buys. Is I'll just look to take a little trade I'll leave a part of that position open. If it continues up, then I have a buy in that area, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're just talking about spot buys where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna buy here and I'm uh, gonna just ignore it. That won't be until we get into the 5.5, the 6 cent area, right? Or the high 6 cent area, right? That's when we get into pocket. That's when I think the price at a discount essentially.
Yeah.
Um,
Kind of what you've driven on the basically at the bottom of
yeah,
the white lines that you drove on that chart. Yeah.
exactly. So as I mentioned, I took some buys on Caspa in this area, right? But as we were coming down here, I've just been head shorting it. Um, so my average right now is I think about like 126, something like that. But um, I'm just taking this as a trade, right?
Right. Right.
If this drops below 11 cents, well, we come lower. We go back to 9.5 and probably lower than that. I would expect. Right, that's just my bit of a line in the sand here. Um, so below 11, I expect that we've broken down and then we continue lower. But until it gets below there, I'll just slowly add into it from a trading perspective, right? And I'll take some profit if that gets back up to the highs and higher, right? It's purely just looking for a continuation leg.
So you're thinking if it comes back down kind of into this zone, that golden zone, and then yeah, you're looking for the pullback. Maybe you break 10 cents, flush some buy stops, and then starts that same kind of climb again that you're talking about
Exactly.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. That makes sense. The one thing I love for everybody listening, if you're new to investing or trading, when you position yourself with the trend and you know where you're wrong, you just automatically grab an edge just from those two things. Just literally understanding the cycle of where you're at, and that's a big part of it with getting in on this. Um, I know we're going to start wrapping up pretty quick, but
Yeah.
some big highlights that I get out of this of listening to a pigeon is he has really researched the technology, believes in the tech, it's still out whether or not it'll get adopted. However, it's on the radar of enough people now that we can expect that in the next bull run, which he's measuring out over a 2-year time frame, so the end of December 2025, that the anticipation is this could go somewhere on the low side to about $2 to on the high side about $6 if it continues to get adoption. So if you're more on a long-term swing trade, and you're starting to accumulate, um, you know, when thoughts like that, I look at something, I go, yeah, you know what? Let's just say for easy numbers, I buy at 10 cents. And my risk is I'm not short term trading where I'd be wrong below, 4 cents. I'm just saying, hey, if I'm looking for a move that could go $2 to $6 in the next bull run over the next 2 years, why don't I just risk 10 cents? Because if it goes to $2, that's 28 times my risk. If it goes to $6, that's like 60 times my risk. Those are really great numbers.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, maybe it'll go to zero, but good chance it might drop back to 5 cents like it did before and just go sideways, and then there's half my investment. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying to do that. I'm just simply saying, depending on your time frame, that's how a professional might be looking at it. Um,
Yeah.
Simply because the upside, if it gets adopted, could be so strong that you'd have that opportunity to really really go. Um, and you wouldn't need much movement. Again, if buying at the 10-cent level, for example, you wouldn't need much with the history of this token to get even just to get a double and get some risk off for a risk-free trade at that point. If you'd say
Yeah.
you sold half and then kept the other half, so
Mm.
there's lots of different ways to look at it. We'll be discussing it more in the CASPA channel. It all depends on your time frame. It is a very speculative token still. I just see that, I don't know. All I can say is instinct. It just feels like this
Good.
could be a good one to be involved in. I'm not saying you should buy it. It just seems to solve a lot of problems with the technology that everything else you look at, like, yeah, Solana is super cool, but it also breaks down a lot. And maybe that's because so many people are using the network, and some people might argue that's a good thing. Um, but yeah, it does have some problems. It breaks down a lot, and it's very centralized. Ethereum, yes, it's now become decentralized, but it's very expensive to use and can't
And it's
move
yeah,
at the speed
it's
that
not scalable.
not scalable, right? Yeah, we start getting things like smart contracts being able to be used on this and that type of thing. This could, yeah, this could take off. Especially if you get any big names start to use it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I just kind of throwing that out there for consideration.
yeah.
Um,
What I'd
yeah.
like to add,
Anything you
if
want to
you're
add?
yeah,
Y-
if you're deciding you want to buy this coin for the long term, just consider DCA, right? I'm a
Yeah.
trader. All I do is stare at charts all day. But if you just want to invest in this and leave it alone, DCA is fantastic, right? If you say you started DCAing into Bitcoin when it was literally at the all-time high at 69,000, you'd be upright, right?
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
bought Bitcoin once a month since it hit its all-time high, you'd be in profit right now. And this is generally just DCA is just the best strategy because you're not gonna miss anything, right? You're not gonna get the perfect entry, but realistically, no one's gonna get the perfect entry, right? All I did was look at the chart all day, right? But I was not able to get a perfect entry, right? I got a great fucking entry on 3.6 cents or whatever, but that was not enough of a position to justify anything, right? So while it was a great entry, right, I needed to add to that a bunch anyway. So even someone who's constantly looking at it, I'm not able to get a perfect entry. So generally, I think just mark out your levels. If you're buying someone for the long term, right, you can slowly buy into it, or you could just set some levels where you want to buy it, right? But there's nothing worse than being sidestepped or sidelined because it didn't hit your target uh,
Oh my
to the
gosh.
downside.
Don't don't be a dick for a tick,
Yeah.
especially if you're long term. Don't sit there and miss out on an opportunity because it needs to just hit your perfect line. It's areas and
Hmm.
zones, right? It's not a perfect price point. That's just the guys trying to sell you a system, trying to show you the exact bottom and the exact top. If you can get in on it within 20% of a swing low, that's fantastic. If you can capture 80% of a move for profit, that's fantastic. Like just just and then time frame doesn't matter. Like seriously, if this thing, and this is a huge if, okay, just so everybody listening, but if CAS was to go to just say $1, do you really care if you bought it at 10 cents or bought it at 8 cents? I understand your returns are significantly different, but versus just not getting in at all, right? I mean, that's how I start to look at things. And so I'm
Yep.
I'm very much with Pigeon on that, on the dollar cost averaging. I'll be putting together a plan for this because I am, especially now that we've had a chat to trader, like a trader talk on it. I am excited about the possibilities of this token. So I'll be putting together a plan. Most likely, my plan is just going to be dollar cost averaging into this, and potentially buying in on miners. And I wanted to ask you to wrap this up, Pigeon.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on actually mining uh, CAS, like 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 money wise, to be able to get your return on that?
So I mean,
Like,
uh, yeah, I think the coin will be around for a long time. So I think mining is generally just a safe bet. And considering the returns right now, by the way, I don't expect so they're like, I think it was 25 to 38% right now they were talking about because the price went up so much and hash rate didn't quite catch up. Um, but even if the rates drop massively, right? Like, um, I think we'll get a few months of this, right? And that
yep,
then generally pays for your cost. I mean, if you're getting 20 to 40% a month in ROI, that's insane. But even if you're getting 5% a month and you're mining for 2 years, not to mention, right, this ROI is based on the price of the token at the time. But if you're like I'm mining these tokens so that I don't have to buy it as much, right? I'll try to get my initial investment out, even though I'm technically already break even on it. Um, and then I'll just hold it for the long term. And if it does well, right? I mean, once your miners are paid for, any token after that, if that goes to fucking $2 per token, and you have like a couple, uh, like 100,000 of these tokens, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
That's massive, right? You got them for fucking what? Right now, even it's that would be what 12,000 would go up to 200,000, right?
Yeah.
Um, so if you're mining coins at these prices, right, the ROI right now is it could even be 5%, right, a month. But if we do get these prices that I'm looking for, right, which again is always a big if, right? No one fucking knows the future. Anyone who tells you they know where price is gonna go is full of shit. But
Exactly.
yeah, if it does play out, right, that is a massive increase in ROI depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm with you on that on the future side of it. Um,
Yeah.
I just want to say, does anybody got any burning questions you want to ask anybody quickly that wants to? I've got about another 10 minutes, and then I got to take off. But and I know Pigeon, it's late for you in the Netherlands.
It's not really.
Um, it,
It's 8:30, but yeah.
okay, I can always just step out too and let people keep running with it. Um, yeah, DM Cooper, that's part of there's a mining operation that possibility with KAS token. It's getting roughly 20%, 22% a month right now.
It was up to
And you,
38% a month they were getting because of the increase in price.
yeah, yeah, then the price, yeah. So, um, rookie, hey, my friend, rookie, our Olympian volleyball player says, "What is like a small amount?" She asked this question, and seriously, she is a Olympian. She made the Beijing 2008 Olympics.
That's awesome.
Uh,
My
what is
uncle
like
is Olympic volleyballer as well.
oh no way. What's your uncle's name? Are you able to
Uh,
share it or not?
it's I mean he's literally the head of the Dutch volleyball bond foundation or whatever. So it's
Oh, super
Michel.
cool.
Yeah.
So she asked this question, what is like a small amount to start with? Like what makes sense, or is there a minimum buy-in?
I mean, if you're cast mining, right, then this would be
And
a problem.
I, I think she's
But
referencing the
yeah,
token
on the
price,
on the to,
perhaps. But
I mean, on the token, right? There's no minimum position, right? It's just whatever you're comfortable with. Price wise, right? If you're if you have the same mindset as me and you think this can do really well and reach targets like $2, then it doesn't really matter whether you get in at 12 cents or down to 6 cents. Like you could be buying all these prices just DCA, right? But there's the minimum buy is literally just what you're okay with losing, right? If you threw this money in there and it never come back and you're comfortable with that, even if it stings a bit, but you're comfortable with that, it doesn't affect your life, then go for it, right? That's kind of how to look at any investment.
I'm quoting you on that. I'm putting it in there right now. That's such a good line. The minimum buy is only what you're scared of losing. So I think to Rookie, to answer the question, to when you come into a crypto, like in this case, you could literally buy one coin, one Caspa coin at 12.5 cents, and then you'd only have one coin. Um, in referencing the mining operation that we were talking about with Altieri, I think the minimum that they were trying to do was $500
Dollars.
dollars. Yeah, and you could get into it. And they approached me before CAS. I mean, that's how I found out about Caspa. They approached me, was like, "Hey, are you guys interested in, would you want to do this? The returns are really good right now," and that. I just passed on the opportunity for Trader Punks because we were very focused on the Bitcoin side of things, and I really just want
Yeah.
to ease into all of this. I don't want to
Mhm.
be. I want to be in the things
Yeah.
I'm really get and understand. And having the having Pigeon come up here to
Mhm.
talk about this has been very helpful.
Yeah.
And I love I was going to say cold dose of water, but it's not that. It's like just the practicality of trading and investing that you bring to this discussion at the end. I mean, we talk about all the gung ho things that this token could be used for and the problems it solves, but you just bring that practicality of trading and investing at the end of it, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, nothing in crypto is actually used, right? Like, it's all just speculation, and whether something's going to do well just depends on, like, whether people within crypto like it and buy it, right? Um, so if it looks
Yeah,
good, I'll get it, right? It's that simple.
yeah, that's really good. Cool, man. Listen, we got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions. I just wanted to ask you, is there anything I can do for you? Because I really appreciate you coming into our community, as I'm sure everybody else does. Um, Anything I can do for you?
Um, Nothing in particular. I mean, if you guys wanna check me out on Twitter, I've been posting some stuff there recently. That'd be cool.
Guys, can you drop, Pigeon, can you drop your Twitter handle into the,
Yes. Let me just get the link for that.
I did give you a shout out on Twitter that this was happening,
Oh,
but
awesome.
yeah, if you guys want to, yeah, there it is. You want to follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
You can see he brings some good wisdom to the table. Um, I yeah, it would be fun to have a trader wisdom kind of conversation sometime.
Mhm.
Um, I do have a guy, one of our trader punks that's recently look, he's funding an account. His name's Alex. We're going to be
Mhm.
having a discussion with him live where he's reaching out to me. He wants to. I'd helped him prior, and yeah, we're going to try to do something with him and really bring some trader wisdom into this. So it might be some fun things
Mhm.
down the road. But yeah, man.
And Alex that's
Again,
funding an account. I know one of those.
yeah. Well, it's actually what he's done. He's saved up. I think he's saved up over $10,000 of his own money. So he's actually saying, okay, I got a chunk now. I'm willing to trade. But before he starts out, he wanted me to, kind of have a good discussion with him on him and make sure he's headed the right direction.
Mhm.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
try to pull that together here pretty quick too.
I-
Um,
yeah. Well,
I,
I'm sure we'll talk. Um,
yeah, man.
yeah.
Cool.
And if
And if I could stay in touch, please. Yeah, it
yeah,
was good.
sure. And if you want to learn about more coins that I like, I've dropped a little a thread that I did on Layer Zero, which is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to decentralization, but it's very good. I dropped the thread I did for that in the chat as well if you guys want to have a look at that. Um, that's another one of the coins that I very much like for the coming cycle.
I see that. I bookmarked it. That's cool.
Yeah,
Um, I'm going to drop it in our happy hour highlights channel too.
awesome.
Cool. Sweet. Right on. Thank you, man. I
Yeah,
again appreciate it. Very good discussion. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna be very curious if you start buying Caspa. Shoot me a DM. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
always now I'm following what you're doing.
yeah.
I'm like, all right, what's he gonna be doing?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I gotta get my wallet figured out, and that, and a lot of what you said resonated with me in my principles. Yeah, just it's just good chat all the way
mm,
around. So thanks
yeah.
again,
Well, thank you for having me. It
everybody.
was good fun.
Yeah, everybody listening, give Pigeon a follow. You're getting some thank yous in the chats. You probably see it. Um, and yeah, once again, this has been great. And everybody else, all the best to you, Trader Punks, to our guests that are listening. Thank you for attending. Glad you're a part of it. If you ever want a 10-day trial access, just let me know, and I'll drop you an NFT that gives you access at no cost. And then last but not least, we are dropping an NFT to everybody that attended. That's a Trader Punk. You'll get an NFT in your wallet. Um, PunkBot would normally do this automatically. However, because we're on a stages, there's something that's not quite working perfectly. Radical Shadow let me know, so he decided not to let it. He's basically going to just drop it manually to you. So check your wallets in a while, and then we'll have also this recording will be linked also to all Trader Punks, but NFTs using the Theta blockchain, but also to those NFTs that get dropped today. So either one will allow access to it. So for some of you in attendance, Jay Sanch, we won't forget you this time, man. You're there. So some of you in attendance might have this and just say, hey, I want to give it to a friend to be able to listen to or whatever. You can transfer your NFT to them, and they'll be able to listen to it. All right, cool, guys. Have a great weekend. I'm off for meet my banker buddy for lunch. Take care.